The alarm tore through the corridor before I even had time to blink. Red light flooded the walls of the trade station, and my heart slammed against my ribs as the floor shook under my boots. Something had hit the outer hull, hard. I was Daniel Hale, a junior engineer on Kesh Station, and 30 seconds ago, I had been carrying a tray of coffee to the docking bay. Now the tray was on the floor, the coffee was soaking into my boots, and every screen in the hallway was flashing the same word: breach. I did not wait for instructions. I ran. The corridor twisted sharply, and I grabbed the rail to keep from slamming into the wall. Through the thick viewport beside me, I could see chunks of debris spinning past the station, catching the light of the dead star we orbited. Something out there had broken apart, and pieces of it were now falling toward us like knives. A voice crackled through the comm in my ear. It was clipped, calm, and completely unfamiliar. Engineer Hale, report to Corridor 9, immediately. I did not recognize the voice, but I recognized the authority in it, so I turned and sprinted toward Corridor 9 without asking questions. My lungs burned. My mind was racing faster than my legs. Corridor 9 was the old coolant line, the one flagged for repair weeks ago, and never fixed, because nobody thought it would matter this soon. When I reached the hatch, it would not open. The panel beside it blinked amber, then red, then amber again, stuck in a loop that meant the whole section had lost power. I slammed my palm against it twice before I heard footsteps behind me, fast and light, closing the distance in seconds. I turned, and that is when I saw her. She was tall, with skin that seemed to catch the emergency lighting and throw it back in soft violet, and eyes that moved with a kind of sharp, calculating speed I had never seen in a human face. She wore no suit, no mask, nothing to protect her from the radiation leaking through the cracked wall behind her, and yet she was not coughing, not stumbling, not dying. She looked at the door, then at me, then back at the door, and without a single wasted motion, she pressed her hand against a hidden seam I had not even noticed, and forced the panel open with strength that should not have belonged to someone her size. "Get back," she said. Her voice was smooth, almost musical, but there was no mistaking the command in it. I did not get back. I could not. Behind that door was the coolant core, and behind the coolant core was the fuel line that fed half the station. If it ruptured, we would not have 30 seconds. We would have 3. I pushed past her into the room, ignoring the sharp burn of radiation prickling against my exposed skin, and grabbed the emergency shutoff lever bolted to the far wall. It was jammed. Of course it was jammed. Nothing on this station worked the way it was supposed to when it actually mattered. She appeared beside me before I had even finished cursing under my breath, and together, we threw our weight against the lever. It groaned, resisted, then finally snapped downward with a metallic shriek that echoed through the chamber. The hissing stopped. The red light on the panel turned green. For one full second, neither of us moved, both waiting to see if the silence would hold. It held. I turned to thank her, but she was already staring at me, and not with relief. With something closer to fascination. The way a person might look at a puzzle they had just realized was far more interesting than they expected. "You should be in pain right now," she said. "That leak was strong enough to blister human skin in under a minute." I looked down at my arms. She was right. They were red, tender, already beginning to swell, but somehow the adrenaline had pushed the pain so far to the back of my mind that I had not even noticed it until she pointed it out. Now that she had, it hit me all at once, and I hissed through my teeth. "Okay," I said. "Now it hurts." She almost smiled at that, but the moment was cut short by another tremor rolling through the floor, stronger than the first. The lights flickered, died, then came back in a dimmer, more desperate shade of red. "That was not debris," she said quietly. "That was something docking." Before I could ask what she meant, the comm in my ear crackled again. But this time it was not the calm voice from before. It was panicked, breathless, cutting in and out. "Unauthorized vessel attached to Bay 4. Security teams are down. Repeat, security teams are down." I felt my stomach drop. Bay 4 was 2 corridors away, close enough that whatever was happening there would reach us within minutes if nobody stopped it. "Who are you?" I asked her, because the situation had moved far beyond the point where etiquette mattered. "Her name is Elira. and she looked at me with the same measuring expression from a moment before, except now there was urgency behind it. "A trade envoy," she said, "and someone who does not intend to let this station fall apart around her on the first mission she has ever led." We ran together, back through the corridor, past sparking panels and flashing warnings, toward Bay 4. My legs ached, my arms stung with every swing of movement, but I kept pace with her, driven by something sharper than fear. I wanted to understand what was happening. I wanted to help stop it. When we reached the junction above Bay 4, we found the observation window, and through it, we saw the shape of an old transport vessel locked against the station's hull, its boarding tube extended, its hatch already open. Figures moved through the tube in single file, quick and deliberate, wearing gear that marked them as scavengers, not traders. "They are after the fuel reserves," Elira said. "If they breach the tank room, this entire section depopulates in under 10 minutes. I looked at the emergency panel built into the wall beside us, the one meant for exactly this kind of situation, the one I had trained on during my first week aboard the station and never once expected to use for real. My hands moved before my mind fully caught up, entering the override sequence that would seal every internal door between Bay 4 and the tank room. "It will trap them in the boarding tube," I said, "but it also traps anyone still inside that section." Elira's eyes locked onto mine, steady despite the chaos rattling the walls around us. "Then we clear the section first," she said. "Together." We split without discussing it, moving through smoke and flickering light, pulling startled crew members from side rooms and pushing them toward the exits, shouting directions over the wail of alarms. My throat burned from the smoke, my skin throbbed from the earlier radiation exposure, but none of it slowed me down. Every person I found and sent running felt like one more second bought against the countdown ticking in my head. When the last worker stumbled past me toward safety, I hit the comm and shouted the clear signal to Elira. Her voice answered instantly, confirming the same from her side. I slammed my palm against the override panel, and the heavy doors along the corridor thundered shut one after another, sealing the scavengers inside the boarding tube exactly as planned. For a moment, everything went still. The alarms quieted, the tremors stopped. Somewhere beyond the sealed doors, muffled pounding echoed uselessly against metal that would not open again until station security arrived in force. Elira found me a few minutes later, standing near the main junction, catching my breath against the wall. Her clothing was scorched at the edges, her hair slightly singed, but she moved like none of it mattered, like her body simply refused to be stopped by something as small as fire or fear. She stopped in front of me and studied my face for a long moment, the same sharp focus from earlier returning to her eyes. "You ran into a radiation leak without protection," she said. "You entered a burning section without hesitation. You made a decision that could have trapped you with those scavengers, and you did it anyway to save strangers you had never met." I shrugged, wincing as the movement pulled at my blistered skin. "Someone had to," I said. She tilted her head slightly, and for the first time since the alarms had started, something in her expression softened into quiet curiosity rather than urgent calculation. "What were you thinking, in that moment?" she asked. "When the doors were closing, and you did not know if you would make it out with the others." I thought about the question honestly before answering, because it deserved an honest answer. "I was thinking that if I did not try, nobody else would," I said. And that felt worse than any fire. Elira looked at me the way she had looked at the reopened doorway earlier, like she was seeing something she had not expected to find, something worth understanding a little longer. "Then perhaps," she said, "this station is safer with you in it than I first assumed." Around us, the emergency lights finally shifted from red to a steady white, and somewhere down the corridor, the muffled voices of security teams grew louder as they arrived to secure the trapped scavengers. The danger had passed, at least for now, but standing there in the settling quiet, breathing hard beside a woman who had just watched me nearly get myself killed and called it interesting, I had the strange feeling that whatever came next on this station would never again feel ordinary.